What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Healthy Maven. Today was supposed to be this really romantic, moody video of me making sourdough bread. I'm not sure what alternative universe I apparently live in, but I thought bread making was going to be a lot easier than it was. It was a process, and it was a learning process, but it was still a process, and it took me 2 days to actually make a loaf. I still haven't quite figured out how to do it, but I did learn a lot in the process, both in terms of what not to do, what to do when bread making, and also just in life. I feel like I learned a lot of life lessons while making sourdough bread. As for how the bread turned out, well, you'll have to stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, I hope you watch the video. I hope you enjoy my trials and tribulations in bread making, learn a thing or two about bread making, and also maybe about life.
So I think with any new activity or project you're going into, it's pretty important to ask for help. So I decided I wasn't going to be too proud about this, and I went to a local baker in the Twin Cities and asked for help. And so this is Christopher. He walked me through the process of how to make sourdough. I watched him make his loaves, which were beautiful. I was a little bit more confused after leaving, but I do think that it kind of prepared me for what, as it turned out, would be a seriously long process. But Christopher did give me some of his starter, which you need in order to make the sourdough, and normally you have to feed it for a week before you can even make the bread, but he helped me with that process. And then I had to make the leaven, which was another step in waiting 12 hours before it was time to turn that leaven into bread. So I picked up all these ingredients from the local co-op, was pretty excited about them, only to quickly discover that I did not have nearly enough flour. So yeah, I ran out of flour halfway through making the bread. But with any life lesson, you just do what you gotta do. So I rummaged through the cupboards and found some whole wheat bread, which meant that most of the loaf was whole wheat, which in theory should be really good, but when you're making a sourdough loaf, if too much of it is whole wheat, it can be a little too dense. So I ended up with a pretty dense bread, but whole grains are great for you, so you gotta make do with the ingredients that you have. Then it was the process of, I don't even know what you call this. It was folding the bread over, and I was like, oh, I'll do this once and let it rise. Oh no, my friends. You have to do this 4 times over the course of 3 hours. And at this point, we're still only about halfway through the bread making process. But did that 4 times, covered it in between, and went to yoga to calm myself down. But then it was about 9 o'clock, and I was still making bread, and I was kind of exhausted. So I needed a glass of wine, and I just put the thing in the fridge to rise overnight. But tomorrow is a new day. Life lesson number 1205. I got back on the horse and continued the bread making process, not fully confident how it was going to turn out, though I will admit it was looking more like bread. And then you're supposed to score it, but of course I had none of the right tools and none of the right ingredients. But again, you just make do with what you got. I did an interesting scoring job with a knife. If any of you guys have better tools that don't require me to go out and buy bread baking tools, that would be awesome. Then I just put it into the oven to bake and had no idea how it was going to turn out. But what I did know was that it required a lot of patience. This whole process really required a lot of patience. Something that Bodhi taught me all too well. Just sit and wait. Then it was time to see how it turned out. So this is the first portion of baking. So I hadn't browned it yet, but wanted to see if it rose. And ta-da! It did. It rose. It kind of looks like bread. It does look like bread. But then I had to put it back in order to brown itself and get that crispy outside. And I pulled it out, and I had to wait 15 minutes before I could cut into it, so I didn't really know if it was good on the inside, which was sort of torture, but it looks like bread, so I was like, okay. And as it turns out, pretty dense on the inside. Not my favorite loaf of sourdough, but I made it myself with my bare hands, and I learned how to make bread, and I am pretty proud of myself about the process.
So there you have it, guys. It was a process. We kind of got bread out of it. I mean, it was pretty good. It was a little more whole grainy than I kind of wanted it to be, even though I'm all about the whole grains, but it was just a little too dense. So next time I'm not going to run out of white flour. But it was really fun to play around, to like understand the fermentation process, to meet with a local baker, to, you know, learn how to make bread, and have so much more appreciation for when I spent $6 on a sourdough loaf. Like, that is cheap for how labor intensive this process is. So kudos to you if you were a baker. As for everything else I learned, well, not surprisingly, when you expect things to go a certain way, they usually don't. But if life gives you lemons, make lemonade, or make a version of sourdough bread loaf. I hope you guys like this video. Give it a thumbs up. If you do, it is always appreciated. Comment below letting me know what kind of videos you want to see. Maybe I like try and make something else that's like really hard and I kind of cry myself to sleep for 3 nights. No, none of that. Subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 4,000 subscribers, which is like mind-blowing. But I would love to hit that number. Maybe we'll have a little party. Maybe we'll do a little giveaway. So yeah, hit subscribe. Hope you enjoyed this video. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye. But in the meantime, I totally lost my train of thought. This keeps happening to me. What was I saying? I was gonna pull out these like fresh steaming loaves from the oven and like all of those like romantic like bread kneading moments, you know, like sort of like Moody Homestead in Denmark kind of style.